Get on the ground now!
Officer, I live here. This is my...
I said get down! Hands behind your back!
Sir, I'm just...
Shut your mouth. You think you can roll through here in a car like that?
The officer slammed him face first into the asphalt, knee on his back, cuffs clicking tight, blood running down his cheek.
Stay down.
The man didn't scream, didn't fight, didn't even raise his voice. He just lay there, bleeding on the street he'd owned a home on for 4 years, and said 5 words.
You're making a terrible mistake.
The officer laughed, but within 15 minutes, 3 black Suburbans pulled onto that street.
What is this?
And when the officer found out who he'd just thrown to the ground, his entire life fell apart. Have you ever been judged by nothing but the color of your skin? I'm not gonna lie. That situation felt wrong from the start. Let's get into the story. To understand how we got to that moment, a man bleeding on his own street, we need to rewind about 2 hours. It's a Saturday afternoon in late September. The kind of day where the sun hangs low and golden, the air smells like fresh cut grass, and the whole world feels like it's moving in slow motion. We're in Ashburn, Virginia, about 40 minutes outside Washington, D.C. If you've never been there, picture this. Big brick houses on quiet cul-de-sacs, American flags hanging by front doors, kids riding bikes, sprinklers ticking back and forth across perfect green lawns. It's the kind of neighborhood where the biggest crime is someone leaving their trash cans out a day too long. And it's almost entirely white. Now, in the garage of a brick colonial at the end of Maple Ridge Lane, there's a man working on a car, a 1969 Ford Mustang, cherry red, or at least it will be once he finishes restoring it. Right now, it's mostly rust, primer, and stubbornness. His name is Gerald Torres. He's 52 years old, wearing oil-stained jeans and a faded Howard University t-shirt. No watch. No jewelry, no badge, nothing on him that screams importance. He looks like any other guy enjoying his weekend. Hands dirty, radio playing, cold drink sweating on the workbench beside him. His wife, Nina, steps out through the side door carrying 2 glasses of iced tea. "Baby, be honest with me," she says, handing him a glass. "Is this car ever actually going to run?" Gerald wipes his forehead with the back of his hand and grins. "By Christmas?" "You said that last Christmas." "I said by Christmas. I didn't say which one." Nina laughs. It's easy between them. Comfortable. The kind of love that doesn't need to perform for anyone. She leans against the door frame. "Don't forget, Monday morning, 8 sharp." Gerald nods. "I know. The White House briefing." Just like that. Casual. Like he's reminding himself to pick up milk. See, here's the thing about Gerald Torres that nobody on this street knows. Nobody at the hardware store knows. Nobody at the gas station or the coffee shop or the barber shop knows. Gerald Torres is the director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI. The man in the oil-stained jeans runs the most powerful law enforcement agency in the United States. He oversees 35,000 employees. He reports directly to the Attorney General. He briefs the President of the United States on matters of national security. But today he's just a guy who needs a carburetor gasket for a 50-year-old Mustang. He kisses Nina on the cheek, grabs his keys off the hook by the door, and climbs into his black SUV, a personal vehicle, not government issued. No tinted windows, no special plates, nothing that says federal. "I'll be back in 20 minutes, he tells her. "Famous last words," she calls after him. He pulls out of the driveway, turns left onto the main road, and heads toward the hardware store a few miles away. The drive is peaceful. Windows down, warm air. A neighborhood so quiet you can hear the birds. Now, while Gerald is browsing aisle 9 for that gasket, let's talk about the other person in this story. About half a mile from Gerald's house, parked at the Sunoco station near the neighborhood entrance, there's a police cruiser. Engine idling, AC blasting, mirrored sunglasses on the dashboard. Behind the wheel sits Sergeant Brent Hadley, 38 years old, 9 years on the force, built like a linebacker, 6'2", 220, thick neck, square jaw, the kind of cop who walks into a room and wants you to feel it. Hadley has a reputation, not the kind they put on commendation plaques, the other kind. In 9 years, 6 separate complaints have been filed against him for excessive force. All 6 were reviewed internally. All 6 were dismissed. No discipline, no retraining, not even a note in his file. 3 of those complaints came from Black or Latino drivers, stopped in nice neighborhoods, for reasons that never quite held up. His partner today is Officer Kyle Pruitt, 24 years old, 2 months out of the academy, still creased and eager, still believes the badge means what they told him it means. Pruitt sits in the passenger seat, quiet, watching Hadley run plates on every car that passes the gas station. Not every car, actually, just certain ones. Gerald pulls out of the hardware store parking lot at 5:47 p.m. The carburetor gasket is in a small brown bag on the passenger seat. The sun is just starting to dip. The light is warm, amber, the kind of light that makes everything look like a memory. He's half a mile from home when he sees it in his rearview mirror. Red and blue, flashing lights. Gerald glances at his speedometer, 32 in a 35 zone. He checks his mirrors, nothing out of place. Seatbelt on. Headlights aren't needed yet. Registration is current. Insurance is current. There's no reason for this stop. But Gerald Torres didn't get to where he is by being naive. He knows exactly what this is. He's known since he was 16 years old. He pulls over smoothly, puts the SUV in park, turns off the engine, places both hands on the steering wheel at 10 and 2, fingers spread, visible. This is muscle memory, not from FBI training, from being black in America. He watches in the side mirror as the cruiser door opens. Sergeant Hadley steps out, adjusts his belt, puts on his mirrored sunglasses, even though the sun is behind him and he doesn't need them. It's a prop, a power move. Hadley approaches the driver's side window, slow, deliberate, one hand resting on his holster, the other holding a flashlight, which he clicks on and shines directly into Gerald's face. It's still daylight. The flashlight isn't necessary. That's the point. License and registration. No greeting, no explanation, no "good evening, sir," just a command. Gerald keeps his voice level. "Good evening, officer. May I ask why I've been stopped?" Hadley doesn't answer the question. Instead, he leans down, peers into the car, scans the interior like he's cataloging every detail. The brown bag, the center console, the back seat. License and registration. I'm not going to ask again. Gerald reaches slowly, very slowly, toward the glove compartment. "I'm reaching for my registration now." "I can see what you're doing." Gerald hands over his license and registration. Hadley takes them without a word, studies the license, looks at the address, then looks back at Gerald. A pause. "This is your current address?" "Yes, sir." "This neighborhood? Maple Ridge?" "That's correct." Hadley tilts his head. There's a half smile on his face. Not warm, not friendly. The kind of smile that says, "I don't believe you." "Sit tight." He walks back to his cruiser, climbs in, and then nothing. 1 minute passes, then 2, then 3. Gerald sits with his hands on the wheel, still, patient. The engine is off, and without the AC, the car is getting warm. He can feel sweat forming along his collar. 4 minutes, 5 minutes. In the passenger seat of the cruiser, Pruitt watches Hadley scroll through the computer screen. The plates come back clean. Registration matches the name on the license. No warrants, no flags, nothing. "Sarge," Pruitt says quietly, "it's clean. Everything checks out." Hadley doesn't look up. "Give it a minute." "But there's nothing." "I said give it a minute, Pruitt." 6 minutes. 7. This is a technique. If you've never experienced it, let me explain. The long wait is designed to make you nervous, to make you fidget, to make you do something. Reach for your phone, step out of the car, look over your shoulder. That can be interpreted as suspicious behavior. Gerald knows this, so he doesn't move, doesn't reach for anything, doesn't turn around. He sits perfectly still and stares straight ahead, hands on the wheel, like a man who has all the time in the world. Which, of course, makes Hadley's job harder, because there's nothing to escalate. So he decides to create something. At the 8-minute mark, Hadley steps out of the cruiser and walks back to Gerald's window. He hands the license back. "Mr. Torres." "Yes, sir." "You know why I stopped you tonight?" "No, sir. I asked earlier, and you didn't say." A flicker of irritation crosses Hadley's face. He doesn't like being reminded. "Your right tail light flickered when you turned out of the parking lot." Gerald keeps his expression neutral. "I wasn't aware of that. I'll have it looked at." "Step out of the vehicle." The words land like a stone dropped into still water. The energy shifts instantly. "I'm sorry. Step out?" Gerald says. "For a tail light?" "That wasn't a question, sir. Step out of the vehicle. Now." Gerald takes a slow breath. "Officer, can you explain why I need to exit my vehicle for a potential equipment issue? A tail light warning is typically handled with a fix-it citation." Hadley steps back from the window. His hand moves to his holster, not drawn, just resting there, making sure Gerald sees it. "Sir, I am giving you a lawful order. Exit the vehicle." Gerald looks at Hadley for a long moment, then at the hand on the holster, then at Pruitt, standing near the back of the SUV, body cam blinking red. He opens the door, steps out slowly. Hands on the hood. Gerald places his palms flat on the warm metal of the SUV's hood. "Spread your feet," he does. "Officer," Gerald says, calm as still water, "I want to state clearly that I'm cooperating fully, but I'd like to understand the reason for this level of response to a tail light issue." Hadley steps close, very close, his chest nearly touching Gerald's shoulder. He's 6'2", 220. Gerald is 5'11", 170. The size difference is deliberate. Hadley uses it the way some men use volume, to fill the space, to remind you who's in charge. "The reason," Hadley says, his breath hot against Gerald's ear, "is because I told you to. That's all the reason you need. Are we clear?" Gerald says nothing. "I said, are we clear?" "We're clear, officer." "Good." Hadley steps back, looks at the SUV, looks at Gerald in his oil-stained jeans and faded t-shirt, looks at the neighborhood around them, the brick colonials, the trimmed hedges, the American flags, then looks back at Gerald. "Tell you what, I'm going to have a look inside your vehicle." "I don't consent to a search, officer." "Wasn't asking for consent. There's no probable cause for a vehicle search. A flickering tail light doesn't. I'll decide what's probable cause. You just stand there and keep your mouth shut." Hadley walks to the open driver's side door and leans in, begins going through the glove compartment. Registration papers, owner's manual, a pair of reading glasses. He opens the center console. Loose change, a phone charger, a pack of gum, nothing. He checks under the seats, nothing. He moves to the back seat, and that's when he sees it. A locked, black, leather briefcase, sitting on the floor behind the passenger seat. Hadley pulls it out, holds it up, turns it over. It's heavy, professional, government grade. "What's in this?" "Personal belongings." "Open it." "No." The word hangs in the air like a held breath. Hadley slowly turns his head toward Gerald. "What did you just say to me?" "I said no, officer. There is nothing illegal in that briefcase, and you have no warrant to search it. I'm exercising my Fourth Amendment right." A vein in Hadley's neck pulses. "Fourth Amendment," Hadley repeats, almost amused. "Are you a lawyer now?" "No, sir. Just a citizen who knows his rights." "A citizen." Hadley sets the briefcase on the trunk of the SUV and takes a step toward Gerald. "Let me tell you something about rights. Your rights end where my badge begins. Out here, on this street, I decide what happens and when it happens. You don't get to tell me no. Gerald meets his gaze, doesn't blink, doesn't flinch. Sergeant, I'm asking you, respectfully, to follow proper procedure. And right there, that sentence, that calm, measured, respectful sentence is what makes Hadley snap. Because compliance isn't what he wanted fear. And this man isn't giving him any. What happens next takes less than 4 seconds. Hadley grabs Gerald by the back of the neck, spins him around, slams his chest into the side of the SUV so hard the vehicle rocks on its suspension. Gerald's cheek hits the window frame. His glasses, reading glasses he'd slipped into his shirt pocket, crack and fall to the ground. You think you're smart? Hadley hisses into his ear. You think being polite makes you special? I'm not resistant, Gerald says. Loud, clear, projecting his voice. Not for Hadley, but for the body camera on Pruitt's chest, 15 feet away. I am not resisting, officer. Nobody said you were. Yet. Hadley grabs Gerald's right wrist and wrenches it behind his back, then the left. He pulls both arms up at an angle that sends a white-hot bolt of pain through Gerald's shoulders. Gerald doesn't cry out. You're hurting me, he says, still calm, still controlled. I am unarmed and cooperating. You are using excessive force. Excessive, Hadley laughs, one short, sharp syllable. Brother, you haven't seen excessive. He kicks Gerald's feet apart, wide, wider than necessary, then sweeps his right ankle. Gerald goes down, face first. His cheekbone hits the asphalt with a sound like a fist striking a cutting board. Dry, hard, final. The grit of the pavement tears skin. Blood, warm, immediate, begins pooling beneath his face. His palms scrape the road, his knees hit next, and even through the denim, he feels the burn. Then the weight. Hadley drops his knee onto Gerald's lower back. 220 pounds of force driving into his spine. Gerald's breath leaves him in a single, involuntary grunt. The first sound he hasn't controlled since this began. Click, click. Handcuffs, ratcheted tight, too tight. The metal bites into his wrist bones. There we go, Hadley says, almost cheerful, like he's just finished a chore. Now you're cooperating. Gerald lies on the asphalt, his street, his neighborhood, 3 houses from his front door, where his wife is inside making dinner, expecting him back any minute with a $4 gasket. Blood drips from his cheek onto the pavement, a small puddle, growing slowly. He can taste grit. He can feel the heat of the road soaking through his shirt. He can hear the idle of Hadley's cruiser behind him, the distant hiss of someone's sprinkler, a dog barking 2 blocks away. The world keeps going. The world always keeps going. Pruitt hasn't moved. He's standing near the back of the SUV, one hand half raised like he started a gesture and forgot to finish it. His body camera's red light blinks steadily. His face is pale. His lips are pressed into a thin white line. Sarge, he says. His voice cracks slightly. Maybe we should... I think that's enough. Hadley snaps his head toward the rookie. Did I ask for your opinion? No, but he's bleeding, and I don't think... You don't think. That's correct. You don't think. You watch and you learn. That's your entire job right now. Are we clear? Pruitt swallows hard, nods once, steps back, and says nothing else. Across the street, a woman named Deborah Walsh is walking her golden retriever. She's 63 years old, retired school teacher. She's lived in this neighborhood for 19 years. She's seen Gerald mow his lawn on Sundays. She's waved at him from across the street. She's never spoken more than 10 words to him, but she knows he's a quiet man who keeps a nice house and never causes trouble. And now, she's watching him lie face down on the pavement in handcuffs, bleeding from his face. She pulls out her phone, hits record. Her hands are trembling. Hadley notices, glances over. For a moment, it seems like he might say something, tell her to stop recording, to move along, to mind her business. He doesn't. He's not worried. He's never had to be worried. 6 complaints, 0 consequences. In Brent Hadley's experience, the camera doesn't change a single thing. A gray minivan slows down as it passes. The driver, a man in his 40s wearing a golf shirt, rolls down his window. "Hey, is everything okay over there?" "Keep moving," Hadley barks without looking up. "Nothing to see here." The van hesitates for a second, then moves on. Gerald turns his head slightly, just enough to breathe without inhaling blood. The asphalt is warm against his torn cheek. He stares at a crack in the road, a thin, jagged line running toward the curb like a scar. He focuses on it, counts his breaths. 1, 2, 3. His phone buzzes in the SUV, then buzzes again, then a third time. That's Nina. He was supposed to be home 15 minutes ago. She'll try 3 times, then she'll worry. Then she'll get in her car and drive the route to the hardware store looking for him. That's who she is. That's what she does when he doesn't answer. "Hey," Hadley crouches down next to Gerald, close enough that Gerald can smell stale coffee and wintergreen chewing gum on his breath. "That briefcase, you're going to tell me the combination or I'm going to call K9 out here. And when the dog hits on it, and trust me, the dog always hits, I'm going to crack it open myself. And whatever's inside, that's on you." Gerald turns his head just enough to make eye contact. "The briefcase is my property. You have no warrant, no probable cause, and threatening a false K9 alert is a federal offense, Sergeant." Hadley's jaw tightens. A muscle jumps beneath his left eye. "Federal offense," he repeats slowly, almost amused. "Listen to you. Who the hell talks like that? Where'd you learn that? YouTube? Some jailhouse lawyer forum?" He stands up, presses his boot lightly, just lightly, on Gerald's upper back. Not enough to injure, just enough to make the point. "I can do this, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. I've been doing this 9 years, pal. 9 years. And I've seen 100 guys just like you. Nice clothes, nice car, big fancy words, and every single time, there's something in the car, or something in the record, or something in the story that doesn't quite add up." He leans down again. His shadow falls over Gerald's face. "So what's your something, huh? What are you hiding in that case?" Gerald says nothing. His eyes stay fixed on that crack in the asphalt. "That's what I thought." Hadley straightens up and turns to Pruitt. "Call dispatch. Tell them we need K9 to this location. Possible narcotics concealed in a locked container. Suspect is uncooperative." Pruitt hesitates. His hand hovers over his radio like it weighs 50 pounds. "Sarge, there's no indication of narcotics. We don't have..." "Did I stutter? Call. Dispatch. Now." Pruitt unclips his radio. His thumb rests on the transmit button. He looks down at Gerald on the ground, looks at the blood drying on the asphalt, looks at Hadley's boot still resting on the man's back. He presses the button. "Dispatch, this is Unit 14, requesting K9 to Maple Ridge Lane for a possible..." And that's when Gerald does something no one in that street expects. He laughs. Not loud, not mocking, not bitter. A quiet, exhausted, almost sad laugh. The kind that comes from a place far beyond anger, far beyond humiliation. From a place that has seen this exact movie play out before and knows with absolute certainty how it ends. Hadley freezes. The laugh unsettles him more than any amount of shouting or struggling ever could have. "Something funny?" Gerald presses his forehead gently against the warm asphalt, closes his eyes. "Sergeant Hadley," he says softly, almost gently. "Badge number 2214. I want you to remember this moment. Remember exactly where your boot is right now. Remember the taste of that wintergreen gum in your mouth. Remember what this light looks like on this street." He opens his eyes, looks directly up at Hadley. Because in about 10 minutes, your entire world is going to change. And when it does, I want you to have something very specific to think about. Silence. Complete silence. Even the sprinkler 2 houses down seems to pause. Hadley stares at him. Something flickers behind his eyes. Not guilt, not understanding, but the faintest, most uncomfortable spark of unease. The kind of feeling you get when you walk into a dark room and suddenly sense, deep in your gut, that you are not alone. He pushes it down, buries it. You threatening the police officer now? That's what you want to add to your evening? No, sir, Gerald says quietly. I don't make threats. Never have. He turns his torn cheek back onto the asphalt, closes his eyes one more time. I'm just telling you what's coming. Deborah Walsh, across the street, is still recording. Her phone is shaking in her hand. The golden retriever sits at her feet, confused, whimpering softly at the tension it can feel, but cannot understand. 2 blocks away, a black Suburban with tinted windows turns onto Maple Ridge Lane. Its engine is barely audible. Its headlights are off. Then a second one appears behind it, then a third. All right, y'all, I gotta pause here, because this man is face down, bleeding, boot on his back, and he's the calm one? Meanwhile, this cop has zero clue what's about to roll up on his street. Like, bro, you are so not ready for what's coming. The first Suburban stops 30 feet behind Hadley's cruiser. No siren, no lights, just the soft crunch of tires on asphalt, and then silence. Hadley turns his head, squints. The second Suburban pulls up on the opposite side of the street, blocks the lane completely. The third rolls past all of them and stops ahead of Gerald's SUV, boxing the entire scene in. 3 black vehicles, tinted windows, government plates. Hadley's hand drifts to his holster. What the hell is this? The doors open, all of them, at the same time. Men and women step out, dark suits, tactical vests, earpieces, sidearms visible but holstered. They move with the kind of precision that doesn't come from a local police academy. It comes from Quantico. 8 agents fanning out, forming a perimeter. Not around Gerald, around Hadley. Pruitt drops his radio. It hits the pavement and the battery cover skids into the gutter. His mouth is open, but nothing comes out. From the lead Suburban, one man steps forward. He's tall, silver hair, a dark navy suit that costs more than Hadley's monthly salary. His badge is already out, held at eye level, catching the last of the evening light. He walks straight toward Hadley. Not fast, not slow. The walk of a man who has never once in his life needed to rush. Sergeant. His voice is flat, controlled, the temperature of a frozen lake. Step away from that man, now. Hadley puffs up. It's instinct, the same territorial reflex he's relied on for 9 years. Sir, I don't know who you think you are, but this is an active traffic stop. You need to identify yourself. And back, my name is Scott Brennan. He holds the badge closer, close enough for Hadley to read every word. Deputy Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The street goes quiet. Not just quiet, vacuum quiet. The kind of silence that has weight. Hadley blinks, reads the badge again, looks at the Suburbans, looks at the agents, looks back at Brennan. FBI? His voice has lost half its volume. What is this about? Brennan doesn't answer the question. He looks past Hadley, down at Gerald, still face down on the asphalt, hands cuffed behind his back, blood drying on his cheek. I said step away from him, Sergeant. I won't ask a third time. Hadley takes 1 step back, then another. His boot lifts off Gerald's back. The absence of weight is immediate. Gerald exhales slowly, fills his lungs for the first time in minutes. Brennan crouches down, pulls the key from his pocket. Not Hadley's key, his own, and uncuffs Gerald with 2 quick clicks. He offers his hand. Gerald takes it, rises slowly. His knees are stiff. His cheek is swollen, the skin torn and crusted with grit and dried blood. His Howard University t-shirt is ripped at the collar. His palms are raw. He stands, brushes gravel from his jeans, rolls his shoulders, touches the wound on his cheek with 2 fingers, looks at the blood, and wipes it on his jeans without expression. Then he turns to face Hadley. The officer's face is a time lapse of collapse. Confusion first, the eyes darting, trying to assemble the pieces. Then recognition. Slow, cold, creeping up from his gut like nausea. Then something worse than fear. Understanding. Brennan straightens his tie, looks at Hadley the way a surgeon looks at an x-ray he's seen too many times. Sergeant Hadley, the man you just threw to the ground, cuffed, and held under your boot for the past 12 minutes. That's Director Gerald Torres. A beat. Director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Another beat. My boss. Brennan pauses, lets the words settle like stones dropping into deep water. Your boss's boss's boss. Hadley's face goes white. Not pale, white. The blood drains so fast it's almost visible, like watching a screen dim. His lips part. No words come. His right hand is still resting on his holster, but the fingers have gone slack. Pruitt makes a sound behind them, a small choke noise, something between a gasp and a whisper. He takes 3 steps backward until his shoulders hit the cruiser. Hadley tries to speak. Director, I didn't. There was no way I could have. Gerald raises one hand, just one, palm out. The gesture is small and quiet, and it stops Hadley mid-sentence like a wall. Sergeant Hadley. Gerald's voice is low, steady, not a single tremor. Badge number 2214. I told you to remember this moment. He looks at Hadley's hand on the holster, at his boots on the pavement, the same boots that were on Gerald's back 60 seconds ago, at the mirrored sunglasses still perched on his head. You stopped me because I'm black. You searched my vehicle without cause. You threw me to the ground without provocation. You knelt on my back while I bled on my own street. Gerald steps closer. 1 step. Just one. But the distance between them collapses entirely. And you did all of that because you were absolutely certain that I was nobody. He holds Hadley's gaze. That's the problem, Sergeant. Not that you didn't know who I was, but that it mattered. Gerald turns to Pruitt. The young officer is trembling. His body camera blinks red. Officer Pruitt, your camera, is it still recording? Pruitt nods, can't speak. Good. Gerald's voice softens, but only slightly. Don't turn it off. Hadley's mouth opens and closes. Opens and closes. Like a fish pulled from water and dropped onto a dock, gasping for something that isn't there anymore. Director Torres, sir, I had no idea. If I had known. If you had known. Gerald repeats the words back, slowly, letting each one land. If you had known, you would have been polite. If you had known, you would have let me go. If you had known, your knee would never have touched my back. He tilts his head slightly. That's not a defense, Sergeant. That's a confession. Hadley's legs seem to lose their certainty. He shifts his weight. His hand finally falls from the holster, not by choice, but because his body is surrendering faster than his mind. Sir, the tail light. I was following procedure. There was no tail light malfunction. Brennan cuts in. He's holding a tablet now, pulled from the Suburban. We reviewed your dash cam on the way here. The vehicle's rear lights were fully operational at the time of the stop. You fabricated the pretext. Hadley looks at Brennan, looks at the tablet, looks at the 8 agents standing in a silent semicircle around him. For the first time in 9 years, Brent Hadley has nothing to say. Pruitt is still pressed against the cruiser. His hands are shaking. His body cam keeps blinking its steady red light, recording every second of an evening that will define the rest of his life. A new vehicle turns on the Maple Ridge Lane, not a Suburban this time, a white Crown Victoria with a blue stripe, the police chief's car. Chief Harold Dawson steps out. He's 56, gray mustache, dress shirt untucked on one side. He was at dinner when the call came. He walks toward the scene with the stiff, careful stride of a man approaching something he already knows is catastrophic, but hasn't yet seen with his own eyes. He sees the agents first, then Brennan, then Gerald. The torn shirt, the blood on his cheek, the raw palms, then Hadley, standing alone in the middle of it all, pale as paper. Director Torres. Dawson extends his hand. Gerald doesn't take it. Director, I cannot begin to. I assure you this does not represent our department's. Chief Dawson. Gerald's voice hasn't changed. Same low register, same absolute control. Your officer conducted a stop based on a fabricated equipment violation. He performed a warrantless search of my vehicle. He used physical force against a cooperating, unarmed civilian. He threw me face first onto the pavement and knelt on my back for over 10 minutes while I bled. Gerald pauses, lets the silence work. There is no misunderstanding here, Chief. There is a pattern, and tonight it was recorded from multiple angles. Dawson's face ages 10 years in 5 seconds. He turns to Hadley. Brent. Hadley looks up. His eyes are glassy. Badge and weapon. Now. Chief, if you just let me explain. Badge and weapon. Now. Hadley's hands move like they belong to someone else. He unclips his badge from his belt, pulls his service weapon from the holster, ejects the magazine, clears the chamber, hands both to Dawson. The badge catches the last light of the evening. For one brief second, it glints, and then it disappears into Dawson's hand. 9 years, 6 complaints, hundreds of stops, thousands of small cruelties that never made the news. All of it, every bit of it, ending on a suburban sidewalk in front of a retired school teacher with a cell phone and a golden retriever. You're suspended, effective immediately, Dawson says. Go home. Don't talk to anyone. Don't post anything. A union rep will contact you in the morning. Hadley stands there, stripped. No badge, no gun, no authority. Deborah Walsh is still recording from across the street. An FBI agent approaches Pruitt. Officer, we'll need your body camera footage. Please don't power down the device. Pruitt unclips the camera from his vest with shaking hands and surrenders it without a word. A second agent secures Hadley's dash cam and body camera. Every frame, every angle, every second is preserved. Hadley is escorted to the back seat of Dawson's Crown Victoria. He ducks his head to climb in. The same motion, the same posture, the same small door he's guided hundreds of other people through. Only this time, he's the one sitting behind the cage. The door closes with a heavy, final click. Gerald watches the car pull away. His face reveals nothing, but his hands, hanging at his sides, free of the cuffs now, are completely still. The stillness of a man who knows this isn't over. It's just beginning. By Sunday morning, the FBI had opened a formal civil rights investigation into Sergeant Brent Hadley. Not a departmental review, not an internal affairs inquiry. A federal investigation, the kind with subpoena power, forensic accountants, and agents who don't care about your union rep. Gerald didn't make phone calls. He didn't have to. The machine was already moving. First, they pulled Hadley's personnel file, all 9 years of it, and what they found was exactly what you'd expect, and exactly what the department had ignored. 6 excessive force complaints, 3 of them involving Black or Latino drivers. Every single one was dismissed after an internal review conducted by Hadley's own chain of command. No discipline, no retraining, no record of follow-up, just a rubber stamp and a closed folder. But the FBI doesn't do rubber stamps. They pulled Hadley's dash cam footage going back 3 years. Every stop, every interaction, every choice he made about who to pull over and who to wave through. The numbers told the story before anyone had to. In the past 36 months, Hadley had conducted 214 traffic stops. 68% of those stops involved drivers of color. In a jurisdiction where the population is 83% white, 68%. And in those stops, the rate of searches was 4 times higher for black drivers than for white drivers. The rate of physical force, any physical contact initiated by Hadley, was 6 times higher. This wasn't a bad night. This was a system, a one-man system operating inside a department that had every reason to see it and no desire to look. By Sunday evening, Deborah Walsh's cell phone video hit the internet. She posted it to her Facebook page with one sentence: "This happened on my street today." By Monday morning, it had 4 million views. By Monday afternoon, 16 million. News anchor Angela Greer ran the story on the 6 o'clock broadcast. She stood in front of the Ashburn police station, the same building where 6 complaints had gone to die, and delivered the segment that would define the news cycle for the next 2 weeks. An FBI director, thrown to the ground, handcuffed, bloodied, on his own street, in his own neighborhood, by an officer with a documented history of racial profiling. She paused. Let the footage play. Gerald, face down, Hadley's knee on his back, the blood on the asphalt. The question tonight is not just about one officer. It's about every complaint that was filed and ignored, every review that was conducted and dismissed, every supervisor who signed off and looked away. The chyron at the bottom of the screen read, "Who protects the protectors?" Gerald gave no interviews, released no statements. His silence was louder than any press conference could have been. But the video spoke for him, and it spoke in a language everyone understood. The public response was immediate and enormous. Community leaders demanded accountability. Civil rights organizations filed formal requests for the department's complaint records. 3 separate city council members called for Chief Dawson's resignation. Dawson held a press conference on Tuesday. He stood behind a podium with the department's seal and tried to call it an isolated incident involving a single officer who deviated from department standards. Nobody believed him, because by then, the FBI had shared their statistical analysis with the press. Not the whole file, just enough. Enough to show that Hadley's pattern wasn't a secret, it was a feature. And the department had treated it like furniture. Something that had always been there, something nobody bothered to move. Then came the moment that broke the case wide open. Officer Kyle Pruitt cooperated. He didn't have to. His union told him not to. His attorney advised him to stay silent. But Pruitt walked into the FBI field office on Wednesday morning, sat down across from 2 federal agents, and gave a sworn statement. He confirmed that Hadley fabricated the taillight violation, that there was no equipment malfunction of any kind, that the stop was initiated based on nothing more than the appearance of the driver in what Hadley considered a white neighborhood. And then Pruitt said the thing that sealed it. During the plate check, while they sat in the cruiser off camera, waiting for results that were already clean, Hadley had turned to Pruitt and said, "Bet you $50 this car is stolen. Guys like him don't buy cars like that." Guys like him. 3 words, under oath, on the record. The trial began 6 weeks later. Federal court, Judge Eleanor Whitfield presiding, a 61-year-old jurist with a reputation for precision and zero tolerance for theatrics. The charges were severe. Deprivation of rights under color of law, 18 U.S.C. Section 242. Assault, unlawful search and seizure, filing a false police report. The prosecution played the body camera footage first, all 14 minutes of it, unedited, no narration, no commentary, just the raw, unbroken recording from Pruitt's chest. Gerald's voice saying, "I am not resisting." Hadley's voice saying, "Shut your mouth." The sound of a body hitting pavement, the click of handcuffs, The long minutes of silence while a man bled on his own street. The courtroom was still. Hadley's defense attorney argued that his client was following established protocol for a high-risk stop, and that the officer had no way of knowing the suspect's identity. Judge Whitfield removed her glasses, looked directly at the defense table. The identity of the victim is irrelevant to the legality of the officer's conduct. The law protects every citizen equally, whether they run the FBI or run a food truck. The defense's argument is noted and rejected. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty. All counts. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Hadley stood in a gray suit his attorney had picked out for him. The kind of suit a man wears when he's trying to look like a person he's never been. Judge Whitfield delivered the sentence without ceremony. 48 months in federal prison. Permanent decertification as a law enforcement officer. A lifetime ban from holding any public office or position of authority. Hadley's head dropped. His attorney put a hand on his shoulder. His wife, sitting in the third row, covered her mouth and looked at the floor. But the consequences didn't stop with Hadley. Chief Harold Dawson resigned the following week. Not voluntarily. The city council gave him 24 hours to step down or face a public termination hearing. He chose the quiet exit. It wasn't quiet enough. The department was placed under a federal consent decree, independent oversight, mandatory de-escalation training, a complete overhaul of the internal complaint review process. Every dismissed complaint from the past decade, every single one, reopened for review. And Gerald Torres, in his first and only public statement, announced a new FBI initiative focused on civil rights enforcement in local policing. Federal funding for body camera auditing programs, an anonymous tip line for reporting police misconduct, a dedicated task force to investigate departments with patterns of excessive force. He stood at the podium. The scrape on his cheek had healed, but a faint scar remained, a thin line just below his left eye. He didn't mention Hadley by name. He didn't need to. No one, he said, should have to be the director of the FBI to be treated with dignity on their own street. 3 months later, it's a Saturday afternoon in December. The air is cold and sharp. Frost edges the lawns on Maple Ridge Lane. Christmas lights blink along the roof lines. The neighborhood looks like a postcard. The same quiet, the same brick houses, the same American flags. But something is different now. Something you can't see, but can feel. The way you feel a room change after someone has told the truth in it. Gerald is in his garage. Same oil-stained jeans, same faded Howard University t-shirt, though Nina has tried 3 times to throw it away. Same workbench, same tools, same cold drink sweating on the edge despite the December chill. But today, something is different about the Mustang too. He reaches through the open window and turns the key. The engine catches, sputters once, twice, then roars to life. A deep, full-throated rumble that shakes the tools on the pegboard and rattles the coffee can full of bolts on the shelf. Gerald sits back on his stool, closes his eyes, listens. 3 years of weekends, 3 years of rust and primer and stubbornness. 3 years of Nina asking if this car would ever actually run. It runs. Nina hears it from inside the house. She comes through the side door, dish towel still in her hand, and stops in the doorway. Her eyes go wide. Oh my God, is that? Told you, by Christmas. She laughs, drops the towel, walks over and puts her arms around him from behind, resting her chin on his shoulder. They stay like that for a moment. 2 people listening to an engine that sounds like a promise kept. How does it feel? She asks. Gerald thinks about it. Like something that was broken for a long time finally works the way it's supposed to. He's talking about the car, but they both know he's not only talking about the car. A few miles away, in a federal detention facility in Northern Virginia, Brent Hadley sits on the edge of a metal bunk. No uniform, no badge, no holster, no mirrored sunglasses. Just a gray jumpsuit and a pair of issued sneakers, and all the time in the world to think about a September evening when he was absolutely certain he was in control. He stares at the wall. There's a crack in the concrete, thin, jagged, running from the floor to about waist height. He doesn't know why, but he can't stop looking at it. And in a small precinct 40 miles south of Ashburn, Officer Kyle Pruitt pins on his badge for the morning shift. New department, new chief, new rules. He transferred 2 months ago, requested it himself. He leads community outreach now, goes to schools, talks to kids, answers the questions nobody asked him when he was a rookie, standing on a sidewalk, watching something he knew was wrong and saying nothing. He testified because silence made him complicit, because the body camera recorded what happened, but it couldn't record what he felt. The shame of standing still while a man bled 3 feet away from him. He never wants to feel that again, so he doesn't stand still anymore. Okay, so this story, not real. I made it up. But that gross feeling in your stomach when he hit the ground, yeah, that's real. Because people go through this every day with no FBI backup, no cameras, no nothing. Just them and the pavement. And that messes me up.